Hey, Shalom Markins of Makapasham, GMS London, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chachwadash. Want to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing this truth in all sincerity. Back again with another video. Not sure exactly what I'm going to call this just yet, but it's going to be along the lines of, Babylon, the center of confusion, or something like that. All right, because mass confusion is being spread throughout the earth right now, and it's become even harder, to distinguish facts from fiction. It's harder to distinguish reality with the whole introduction of AI and its ability to fabricate images and narratives and all these different types of things. Right, it was already bad before, right? All this misinformation on the internet and that there's so much information at hand. It was already bad before, but it's got even worse now because what you may be seeing might not even be real. In regards to certain aspects, that you're not privy to firsthand. So all this media that we consume, reports we're being told about what's going on over here or there, what's going on in Iran and all these different types of things. You don't really know unless you're there. If it's if those things are actually happening, the images, oh yeah, we're blowing up this and blowing up that, and yeah, I mean, it could be happening, but at the same time, it might not be happening or not happening like they're saying it is, or it's already bad enough that we can't trust these leaders that say certain things and they spin these narratives and they're lying, right? So everything that's is being produced is really lies, right? And it causes mass confusion because people don't really know what to believe. They don't know what the truth is, and that's why the truth is really important, right? In a world that's full of lies, okay, again being mostly propagated by Babylon, okay, by the Edomites, right? Because they're the kings of confusion, right? They're the small hats, and they control the media and all that kind of stuff. So they shape the reality for the majority of people in this world through their media, right? And obviously, as men of the Lord, our world is not shaped by their media. It's not shaped by their falsehoods because we trust in the scriptures. And even though we can't see, we can only we read the scriptures and we believe in. We can't see what's going on, so that's why we walk with faith. We believe in what the scriptures say. We don't believe in the narratives that Esau puts that there in the public for everyone else to consume, right, and believe, even though they're not there to witness it either, right? So they're going in, trusting in a going blindly too, right? But they're trusting the words of Satan, essentially, the devil, who's a liar, right? It's in the name, right? Oh, over everything else. Okay, we don't do that. We trust in the scripture. We trust in the word of the Lord, right? So despite what we're shown or what we're being told by the media and the opinions of others and agents and shills and all these different types of people that have been set up to misdirect people and whatever, right? We stand fast, to the scriptures, right? So we're not our view upon things is not distorted, even though we can't see what's really going on. Okay, we know what's going on in the spirit, what's going on. Okay, because it's prophecy that this whole world would be in confusion, right? So it's no surprise to us that there's no firm grasp of the truth, out here. These people have no idea what's going on, really. They're trusting in what they see and what they're being told, but all that can be fabricated now. What they see and what they hear, you know. So it's really hard to tell the fact from the fiction, and Esau's made it that way, right? But like I said, that's what it was supposed to be like in the end times. All right, and so like I said, we just we trust in the Lord. We trust in His prophecy, right? We're told ahead of time, how things are going to play out, and so this is what we expect. If it doesn't go according to that, or it's not happening according to that, then it's not real, right? You're being fed false narratives, okay, and being shown false images. Because Trump will have you believe that he's winning the war, that he's for some reason asking for money, he's asking for boats, minesweepers, and all these different types of things. But Iran's beaten already, like 5-6 times over already. But like something's not right. So he's lying. Everyone knows he's lying. He's lying, right? I mean that's it's kind of obvious, right? But it's all the other stuff, let's say concerned with the AI and that, and Netanyahu, right? Supposedly he got caught in an attack. He might be dead. He might not be dead. We don't know. He might have 6 fingers. He might have no. He might have no heartbeat. He might be in a coma. We just don't know because they're hiding. They're hiding stuff in it. So we don't really know, right? Only the Lord knows right now. But regardless, you know, you're made to be, believe something that may or may not be true, right? But anyway, let's get into the scriptures anyway. And I want to start off here in 2 Ezra chapter 5, verse 8. So there shall be a confusion also in many places. The fire shall be off sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters, right? And so this is talking about these last days, right? All these things are gonna come to pass, right? And like I said, that you got animals being displaced, moving into urban areas and stuff like that. You got all these migrations of different animals. You got children bringing forth monsters, disabilities and mutations and that kind of stuff, because they used to be dropping uranium everywhere, nuclear bombs and shit. Man, to be dropping nuclear rods into the ocean and all kind of shit, right? So people are coming out with maybe 6 fingers, you know what I mean, or maybe 8 arms, some weird shit, maybe their eyes on their fucking leg or some shit, it's fucked up, right? So yeah, women should bring forth monsters, like right? And the confusion and the fire, the fire, right? We got wars and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is the state that we're in the last days, right? But focusing on the confusion, right? Everyone's confused, right? Because what's the state of confusion? Not knowing or not understanding something, right? And so, when you don't understand, how can you make any judgments? How can you make any decisions, right? You're being pressured and pressed to believe something, and you don't even know why. You don't even know if it's true. Right, so when the MOTB comes in, it's like you're just gonna be under extreme pressure, right? And you're not going to really know, other than the fact that you think or believe that your life is at risk, right? That you need to take this, because if you don't take it, you're all gonna die. And that's not to say that people won't die, obviously, but like I said, we're grounded by the scriptures, and we know to take that mark of the beast is death. It is certain death, right? Because the Most High will bring judgment on those people, right? So you're being force and pressure into bad decisions, right? Because you're confused, you don't know, you don't understand, because the truth is not being given to you, the whole truth. You might be given bits of truth and this and that, but you're not being given the whole truth to make a sound decision, right? And that's why the majority of these people are going to end up taking that mark and perishing, all right? Because they're in a confused state. They just don't know. Okay, it's Isaiah 24, verse 10. The city of confusion is broken down, right? And Babylon the Great, i.e. America, is that city of confusion, right? Like I said, they pump out their media throughout the whole earth, right? And when you go into the word media, I haven't done this for a little while, but it goes back into witchcraft, basically. And that's all you're being fed through the TV, these TV programs, right? Like I said, you're we're in the West, right? So we get all this Western TV, right? Yeah, you get your local. We get we in the UK, we get the BBC and their programs and shit like that. But a lot here in the West, we consume a lot of American shit. a lot of American shit. So they're the kings, the broadcasters and that, the small hats, and they're the ones pushing these narratives and these ideologies and shit into your head. All right, so it really stems from America. Okay, so the city of confusion is broken down, and you say that you're seeing they're breaking down. Right, it's inevitable. America is gonna fall. Right, the city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All the joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. Right, and you're seeing that, man. The mirth of these people, right, is becoming less and less and less. Man, it has been for some years now. Right, we've all noticed it. Every year is just a bit duller. These men are not, as happy as they were in previous years. right? Because for multitude of reasons, man. Every person's frustrated, right? Every person is more pessimistic, right? Because their kingdom is falling. All right. Not so what from that. It's the second Ezra chapter 16, verse 21. Just to add to this, right? Let's see. I'm just get the point here, right? Verse 21 says, "Behold, victual shall be sold cheap upon the earth," right? Right now, we're seeing gas prices, petrol prices go up because of what's going on in Iran right now with the war in Iran, right? And all these nations are talking about rationing and speed limits, right, to reduce the need for petrol and oil and all that kind of stuff. All right, people talking about not some nations talking about taking a day off every week, until this is all kind of resolved, right? So they're acting. I don't remember it. I've heard this. I've heard. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard. Because there's been guys being interviewed on TV and that kind of stuff. Some supposedly experts or whatever. All right, and there was other times where there was issues with the oil or whatever, and they did rationing and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think I remember witnessing it in my lifetime, in almost 40 years that I've been around. But yeah, I don't remember that. So it seems kind of strange to me that all these nations seem to be doing talking all this stuff and doing all these things and that. But to me it's setting up that whole rationing thing that we go into, with the mark of the beast thing, right? And your access to these things is going to be limited, right? And so when I can't remember if it was World War One or two where they brought those rationing books out for you to get your food and shit. It all had to be stamped, right? You had to have proof. You had to have your book, have it stamped, get your given rations, and that was it. You had to make that last until the next appointment or whatever. Next time you had to go to the store, right? It's all going in that direction, right? And they say it might be starting over here. Like you can only buy a certain amount. I think I do remember that maybe at one point where you can only like buy a certain amount of petrol at pumps and that kind of stuff, so many liters or whatever. All right, so it's happening. Okay, the rationing is beginning, right? And this is going to have a knock-on effect on food supplies and all these different things because obviously, these trucks and stuff they need fuel to move your food about into your different stores. So it's going to have a knock-on effect, right? I saw today Trump was talking about threatening to strike one of Iran's oil fields. Oh yeah, 'cause that's going to fucking help, isn't it? we're gonna strike when the oil fields in retaliation. It was like, yeah, go on, just fuck everybody over. But that's the situation we're meant to be in. The world is gonna get fucked, right? The world is gonna be screwed, and the world is gonna suffer, right? So getting back to here, a little bit of a tangent. Behold, victory shall be so good cheap upon the earth, right? So yeah, we're not for much longer. It's been changing, and it's gonna be changing quick. That they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, right? So evils are growing. Things are getting worse. That's why the mirth is going. Things are getting worse. Right? It says evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Right? So we're meant to be in a time of great confusion. And I said this AI game, man, is crazy. It's flipped everything up, man. No one knows what they're seeing is real or not. So everything's just speculation. Everything's just up in the air. Everyone just has an opinion. Oh, that's fake. That's not fake. And you know what I mean? Oh, six fingers. No, it's just a shadow. Nobody knows. Nobody can tell. And this is why we don't walk by sight. We don't walk by ear, right? Because we can't trust the things we see and what we hear. Really, I know we might go into it, might discuss certain things about it, but we'll always filter it through the scriptures. Always filter it through the scriptures because the scriptures is the rock. It's the foundation, right? These people are walking completely blind, and they have no clue because they're just totally confused. They don't know what's real. They don't know what the truth is, right? Because nothing can be trusted. Verse 22: For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. This is where it's all going to lead to, right? and the other that escaped the hunger shall the sword destroy. Right? So these are the things that we're expecting, regardless of what you're hearing or what you're seeing. Right? The world is gonna be in such a bad place. Okay, the first world, because famine is obviously happening already in these poorer countries, thanks to Esau, right? But in the first world, okay, you're gonna be experiencing famine. Okay, which is not something that these people would ever think or that they're used to, right? But this is what these worlds are gonna experience, right? For one reason or another. Like I say, everything has a knock-on effect, right? But the Most High is working at every angle, so you know, he is, because like, you think about it, the Lord's been bringing like fires, forest fires, things like this, bushfires, bad weather, basically destroying crops and stuff. The ice and all that kind of stuff, right? Destroying the reserves of all the different crops and stuff like that, right? You got this whole immigration thing, people kicking immigrants out of the house, but they're the ones picking your crops and your fruits and all that kind of shit. So that production is dropped. You've got the whole green agenda. Oh yeah, we're over farming. So they're man are buying out farms and stuff like that, and just destroying farms basically, and destroying livestock and all that kind of shit. And then the oil, we can't move shit around. Like the Most High is working on every angle, man, to disrupt your supplies of shit, right? And eventually it's just gonna stop, right? You're gonna be getting very little in, and a lot of people are gonna be dying of famine. Okay, we'll talk. Right? Verse 23, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down. All right? And this is what we're gonna go through, right? This is Luke chapter 21. Let's get verse 25 here. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations. Right? These nations are gonna get distressed, right? More than they already are, right? But it says and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, right? Perplexity means confusion, right? They're going to be confused. The whole world is going to be confused, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what to do, right? And so they're just going to kind of fall back into certain molds, isn't it? You've got your governments and that they're going to say what's real and what's not real, what's happening, what's not happening. And obviously some people are not going to believe them because, a lot of people believe that, government's nothing but liars, which they are, right? But, there's going to be a contingency of them that are not going to listen and not follow orders and that kind of stuff. But you're going to have a whole bunch of people that don't know anything else because they don't know what's going on. So they have to trust somebody, right? And so obviously, the government going to, do their thing, control the minds, as the word government means, right? And tell you what you need to do. You need to do this. You need to take, you need to go to a chipping booth and get this implant, and that verifies you to go get your rations, to go get this and that, and then you can survive. You can live. We're gonna make sure you're fed and you're watered. You have to come down to the station here and get your RFID implant. Right, and most people are gonna be like, okay, yeah, because I can't get food anyway, so I've got kids to feed. So then man, I'm gonna go march down to the booths, just like you did during the pandemic. You're gonna march down there and stand in lines, to get your implants, so you can go get your food. All right. Let me read that again. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. All right, because we're heading into some dark times, man. People are going to be in fear. They're going to be, stressed out by what's happening. Okay, and where it's gonna end, It's Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 5 says, and they will deceive everyone his neighbor and will not speak the truth. Right? They have taught their tongue to speak lies and wearing themselves to commit iniquity. Right? Nobody knows the truth. They men are, you got men are arguing about all kinds of things in this world right now. All different types of communities arguing and counter arguing about certain things and whatever. Nobody knows the fucking truth. That's why they're just all arguing. That's why there's bare strife, because there's points to be made on both sides of the equation, but none of them have the full truth. So they're continue arguing and fighting one another, right? Because this is what confusion does. This is what lies do. Causes strife, right? But this is what Esau's kingdom is built upon: lies, right? And this is why this all needs to come to an end. We can't live a life, an existence under falsehoods. Right, and this is why Yahweh Shai has to come in and rid all of these lies and put them to bed, put them all to sleep, man, and establish truth. Right, and then there's no arguing. There's no, because everyone knows what the truth is. That's the truth. But there's lies and so many lies and variations of lies. But you could be arguing forever about different things, about things you don't know nothing about in honesty. You're just arguing over information you've heard, mostly information you've heard. Right, but you don't know what the truth is, or some kind of limited experience or something. You don't know what the truth is, right? But this whole social media area has just got everybody arguing over everything, right? It's confusion. All right. So thine habitation is in the midst of deceit, though through deceit they refuse to know me, says the Lord. Right? They kept away because they're just under the influence of lies, man. They can't get to the truth. There's so much lies that these men have to, try and get through to get to the truth. But the Lord's not having it where they can get to the truth. The Lord has already been working with his elect to get through. Because obviously we grew up in this world that was, full of deception. Right? And the Lord has brought us out of this place and into the truth. Right? But again, that's a luxury that only the elect get to benefit from. Right? He's not opened that your eyes and ears for you to, get the truth. If you're not of his elect. So you're fighting with the lies. So we are being kept from the Lord. All right. So thine habitation is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit they refuse to know me, saith the Lord, Yahweh. Pardon me. All right. So we'll go from that. It's in Matthew chapter 24, verse 24. It says, for there shall arise false anointeds, right, and false prophets, right, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Right, so all of this is really ultimately is to deceive the masses of people. Okay, but it's not able to deceive the elect, and the reason why is because we're not going by what we're seeing and what we're hearing based on what's going on in the world. Right, because we know Esau controls the majority of that, what we see and what we hear. Right, and when you know Esau, when you know Satan and the devil, you know that they operate by lies. It is in their interest to lie to you or to deceive you in some type of way, right? Because I said, not everything that Esau says is going to be a lie, but he's going to throw lies in there. He's going to throw curveballs in there that, is going to take you off the path of truth. Right? He's not going to give you the full straight, right? So he's going to throw in them lies in it to keep you off path. All right, but like I said, we're not going by what Esau says or what he's showing us, or he's got AI bots or whoever, shields, agents, whatever. We're not going by what they're telling us. Whether they're for or against them, it doesn't matter, right? It's all manipulation at the end of the day. We trust in the word of the Lord. Right? We trust in his word and his prophecy. So this is what we stand on. This is what we stand by. And regardless of what's going on, it won't deter us, right? Because that's the mindset of the elect. Right? So again, I'll read that again, right? For there shall arise false anointings and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. This AI is a great wonder. Right? That it can fabricate images that look real, that's not real. So if it's at that point, how do you believe in what you see when it could be that it's not real at all? Completely fabricated scene. Like I said, I mentioned the Netanyahu thing, right? Because some say that he was, deleted, by an attack by Iran. and then automatically, well, straight away, pretty much, the Israeli government denying it, and all of a sudden, all these videos are popping up that he's walking around cafes and coffee shops or whatever. Did I not put my finger on silent? Just chatting with locals like nothing's going on, like he ain't in no war. Right? And some man say, look, his fingers don't look right, because that's the thing about AI, is sometimes they don't get certain features right. Right? They do the multiplication bit wrong. And so yeah, some people say that it looks dodgy, but yeah, it could be lighting. Because some might argue, oh, it's just the lighting or whatever. It just looks, just looks that way because of the angle and that kind of shit. It could be. There's optical illusions that can happen depending on how perspective or whatever. Yeah, it could be, but we'll never know. we will never know until Netanyahu, and even then, like you personally met Netanyahu, right, and then shook his hand to make sure you got 5 fingers. That was the only way you'd know. And then because what I was about to say just then, right? But you might not even have to believe that, because it could be just a body double, man. You know what I mean? And Esau would do shit like that because they do this. They do this shit. So you can't, you just don't know. You can't know. You can't know, man. And that's what's scary about this place. You just can't know. So if you trust in this world and the things you see and you hear, bro, it's a fucking scary place, man. Let's be real, right? It's a real scary, fucked up place, right? And this is why we don't take no, we're not about this place, man. Okay, we're about the words of the Lord. The words of the Lord don't change. All right. It's not going to look a different way and all this kind of stuff. Like we've been told, we've been given the understanding, right? This is what we expect to happen, right? The intricacies are, we can kind of skim across the intricacies. We can skim across, the minutiae of how we get there and that kind of stuff. Where this man's going to die or whatever. Like, we don't know, all these little things that's going to happen in between, kind of thing. So whether Netanyahu's gone or not gone, it don't really fucking matter. They can lie about that or whatever. It doesn't matter to us. It doesn't change the direction of prophecy. So it's minute to us ultimately. But it just means that, yeah, if it finds that to be true, then, things might ramp up a bit, speed things along. But other than that, it's still going to go in the same direction for us. So it doesn't really ultimately matter. But it's something that people are going to be arguing about until they feel like they got reasonable evidence that he's alive or dead or whatever. To us, it's whatever, in it. It doesn't change nothing, whether he's here or not here. It doesn't change anything at all. America's still going to be destroyed, right? Israel's still going to be set on fire. Okay, this World War III is still going ahead. The Mark of the Beast is still going to come. It's, what I mean? It doesn't change nothing for us. All right, so we don't need to put stock in if it's real or not. Because what we do know is real is the scriptures. Right? That's our foundation, right? Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our time. And this is, this is where the rock of it is, the base, the foundation of it is here in the scriptures. Right? So it's not possible to see the very lit because they stand on them. They stand on these scriptures, on the words of the Heavenly Father. All right? And just one last one before I go. This is from Ephesians chapter 4. Yeah, I should get the point. Verse 14 says that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, right? Because children are impressionable, right? They're like a sponge, right? You tell them something, they'll take it as gospel because they don't know any better. You get some rebellious kids that want to try and test things out, sure, but for the most part, kids just learn, innit? Learn what you tell them and what you show them, right? They don't have no greater ability to critique and oversee things. They don't have the ability yet. Right, so that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine by sleight of men, by everything that you hear. We're not carried by everything that we hear. By sleight of men. AI is a sleight of man. Right? It's a creation of man, right? AI is not God. It doesn't possess all knowledge. Right? It isn't capable of doing everything. Right? So it's not on that level when you read deep it, right? It's not even that impressive when you really think about it. Because what are we? AI is an artificial intelligence. But we are actual intelligence, the Most High created. So it's not in that deep. It's impressive because people are stupid, isn't it? Like, you can't do bare, calculations in seconds, so what, innit? you know. But then your brain does do things in milliseconds that, bro, like, because you're not consciously thinking about it, you're just like, oh shit, that's kind of crazy. Your brain is on the next level, really, but you know, you've been dumbed down. People are being dumbed down in this world. So yeah, I guess AI looks more impressive as you go along in it. You know, as people's brain cells are, you know, being demolished. But yeah, you know, it's not, you know what I mean. But it's convincing, you know, when it comes to trying to show you things that don't exist, and this is how Esau's using this technology. And we knew this was going to be how it was, you know, all the deep fakes and that. Like, as soon as you heard about that, it's like, oh shit, man, this is quite a deadly tool. It's like you know, Esau's top tool of deception, because people can't distinguish it. It's hard to distinguish, and AI is only getting better over time, so it's hard to distinguish if these things are real or not. They sound like the person, or it sounds like a thing. You know, it looks like a thing. You know, it walks like a duck. It must be a duck, right? But the duck might not even exist. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of crazy, man. You know, AI is kind of, you know, just throwing everything up in the air, really, right? But anyway, so that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness. Again, AI is just cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive, right? Used for deception. You know, and I had some, you know, to put into the AI. I put into the AI, right? The use of AI to cause confusion. The use of AI to cause confusion is a rapidly growing phenomenon where generative AI tools such as chatbots and image generators are employed either intentionally or unintentionally to distort reality. Yeah, and that's what we're seeing. Create misinformation and induce cognitive overload. Right? This artificial confusion stems from AI's ability to produce highly convincing yet fabricated content known as hallucinations, okay, which is not really what I'm going into in this particular video, but you know, yeah, sometimes the chatbots chat shit, right? Real talk, right? Let's make up shit, which erode trust in information and challenge human decision making. Like I said, when you're in confusion, you can't make sound decisions. But this is the world. This is what Esau wants. Ordo ab chaos, right? Chaos is confusion, and Esau wants the confusion because he needs you weakened. He wants the people weakened to make a bad decision, basically, to sell their soul, because that's what it gets you in a precarious situation, man. To sell out, to make a decision that really, it looks tempting on one hand, but you know you're gonna get fucked, quite literally, in these you know, actors and music makers and shit, right? But yeah, you're gonna get screwed over, basically. It's a bad deal, isn't it? Ultimately, it's a bad deal. You know it's a bad deal, but you know what other options do you have? You know, if you're desperate, which is what Esau wants you to be, he wants you to be desperate, and that's why the famines is gonna prevail over people. All this evil and bad, you know, shit that's gonna be going on. It's gonna put pressure and make you make these decisions, right? Order out of chaos. Okay, that's what Esau wants. All right. Yeah, the hallucination things goes into them making up facts, but when the AI is being used to make fake images, that's slightly different. Well, it is different, right? So it's deep fakes and synthetic media, which is what I'm really referring to, right? So AI is used to create hyper-realistic fake images, videos, and audio, right? And this is what I mean. Like, they can use this stuff to convict people and do all kinds of things that they you know, they weren't even there. You know, we expect them to use it, you know, against us and all that kind of stuff. Oh, look, they did this, and they, you know, these men are T to the ifs and all this kind of business. But bro, we're just chilling at home. You know what I mean? We're just chilling at home. We go to work. We do videos. Got them in this place. That's about it. But you know, Esau's like, man. He'll use this to make up some narrative that we're dangerous. You know, we're going around, you know, troubling places or whatever. But you know, we're expecting it. You know, so when that time comes, innit? So the fake images, videos, and audio deepfakes, which can make distinguishing between authentic and fabricated content nearly impossible, sowing panic and distrust. Right? Exactly that. Right? Jump into intentional disinformation, malicious actors, the government, right, the elites, right, use AI to amplify chaos. Right? Chaos is exactly what they want. All right? Such as generating fake images during emergencies, right, to make you believe something's happening that's not happening, perhaps, right, to disrupt response efforts and incite panic. You know, so, and like I said, there's a whole system there. Like all of these broadcasters and that, you know, they're in it to a certain degree. You know, you might have authentic, you know, alternative media sources. You know, go out to different places and report things on the ground and stuff like that. You know, but a lot of it's controlled. A lot of information that we receive is controlled, right? So we don't even know the situation going on in Iran, for instance. You know, Trump saying that, you know, they've been decimated, right? At the same time, he's asking for more money to fight, right? We'll be reported, oh yeah, they locked off the Hormuz, and so energy prices are going up. We don't really know that to be true, because these men could just put out prices anyway. So what difference does it make to us? We're just being told that it's because of this, because of what Iran's doing or whatever, but we don't really fucking know. Because as far as other information that we received is that, oh, China's still getting oil, they're still letting China ships move through and all this kind of stuff. So it's whatever, man. We don't really care. We don't expect the details, innit? Okay, as long as the general direction is where it's supposed to be going, you know, we're not gonna sweat about it. You know, we're just gonna measure things through the spirit. Okay, like we always do, right? And come to our own conclusions. You know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you could read the rest of that, but I only wanted to get the few points out of this. That was you know, particular to this video. So yeah, Lord, this is edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.